What's up, RTX 2017? Holy cow. You guys got in. That's good. Awesome. We're really excited to share some first looks of Lazer Team 2 with you. We've got a few of the very fine gentlemen that worked behind the scenes on this movie joining us today. My name's Matt Hall1. Oh, you've heard of me. Thank you, dirtbags. I had the honor and privilege of directing the first Lazer Team movie that you guys were so kind to fund and make happen after us wanting to make a movie for 12 years. So thank you so much. And then we said, hey, let's make a sequel. And that's what we're doing now. So I would like to invite up on stage, first of all, my co-director and co-writer on Lazer Team 2, Daniel Fabello. Next, we have, I need a nickname for this gentleman, production designer extraordinaire, the man who can make anything out of anything, Mr. Marcus Laporte.
There's caution tape for a reason, folks. Okay, look out.
You mean your production design team didn't place that caution tape?
I would have known about it.
Next, the man with the impeccable eye and the guy I like to call the greediest man in cinema, which is a compliment. You'll find out why. Our director of photography, Philip Roy. And finally, the man who needs no introduction, yet will get one anyway. Star, writer, creator, humble soul, Burnie Burns!
Philip, I got some sweet lens flare on that shot right there. You'd be so happy.
Love it.
On the set of Lazer Team 2, that's when I had just started vlogging, and Philip was fascinated by the process. And there was a point at which the lens was dirty, and I was sitting here with my thumb going like this on the lens, and he's like, he just goes, "What? Good Lord, what's wrong with you?" What'd you call it? A grease filter?
You're learning. You're learning.
Well, cool. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending. We've got some cool things to show today.
Is that true?
We do.
I have seen almost nothing. Like, I haven't seen
Well, you're going to get to see something today, buddy.
Yes. I hope I'm in it.
Ooh,
Daniel.
yeah, about that, Burnie.
Don't worry, I was on set. I know how it works.
Daniel, anything you want to say, or should we jump in?
do you want open right to the?
I think people will probably want to see some stuff, and then we'll talk a little bit, and then we'll probably have a Q&A, if that's good.
So we have a teaser trailer that we've been putting together to share with you all. No one has seen this, not even Burnie.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Daniel had a
She said
blindfold
nobody.
while editing it.
Okay, so we have to cut the stream for this, but everybody watching the stream at home, come back, keep watching. We'll be back in about a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Gotta cut the stream? What a ripoff.
Wow. Okay.
We're going to space, y'all.
Went to space. Burnie, what'd you think?
I liked it. One note, a little more Burnie would have been great, but other than that, it's not enough Woody in it.
Well, Woody's missing in this film.
Yep.
And Lazer Team's on a search to find him.
That's the first time we've said that, right? Like we put out a teaser poster that implied that, but that's the first time we've said what the basic premise of the film is.
Yes.
Yeah. So we pick up with Lazer Team after the first film. I think with everybody in Lazer Team expecting that things were going to go swimmingly for them and they would go on their next big adventure, but we find that things have not gone so well.
Yeah.
And the team has kind of fallen apart, and the only one who still has a job is Woody. And then he gets lost, he vanishes, and the rest of the team has to come back together and go off and find him.
Somewhere in the galaxy.
Somewhere in the galaxy.
It was a big point of discussion when we were talking about the premise for Lazer Team 2, and Daniel, I know you felt very strongly about it, was the idea that Lazer Team had to go to space, that they had to be in space.
Well, there was a promise made at the end of the film, and that I think I wasn't there, but was that a joke?
What's that?
The end of the first movie ends with this was that a joke? Was that an intentional thing?
Well, since we
not
based the
say?
entire second movie on that, it would be weird to say it was a joke now. But
I knew that we had that discussion. And I was just like, I feel like the fans want to see us go to space, and that seemed like the next progression for the team. So yeah, I just wanted to go that direction. I don't. Marcus, what was your reaction when?
Yeah, I didn't fight going to space at all. Sounds great. Can I go with them, please?
Wasn't there fear as well?
A little bit, yeah, because nothing that involves space is available at Target or I can't just go pick it up. I got to make everything that you see there. So
It's true.
it was a little intimidating, but it was okay. That's what's fun and challenging and creative, and that's the fun part of the job.
But yeah, and we switched gears a little bit, I think, and relied a lot on art department in this movie. Just building. Your blog covered it a lot from what you could show, but just the sets that we built in Stage 7, and that was a big undertaking that I think worked out.
I think this
pretty
is,
well.
I mean, Marcus, you could obviously say better than anyone, but this feels to me like the biggest production we've had in terms of art.
Sure, for sure. Yeah, this is definitely the sort of the largest quantity of building we've done for any one project. We took up the entire Stage 7. Usually we get a corner and we build a small thing in a big studio, and this time around we were filling the entire studio and kind of running out of room. So
If you guys remember in the first movie, the scenes where Lazer Team is training and where Burnie gets shot in the throat with the balls and falls over, and it's very funny. That was that big warehouse that we were in shooting those scenes. It was about a 35,000 square foot big open room, and
it's like half the size of this room, I bet.
Yeah. So that entire thing for this movie, for Lazer Team 2, Marcus and his team filled out building spaceship sets. So it's pretty cool and pretty elaborate, and there's going to be a lot of cool eye candy for you guys to see in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, and also we still kind of had the same trappings of a lower budget feature, was to how do we get as much bang for our buck, and we want to look as good as possible, but we've got to figure out how to do that. So one of the things we did was we made all the hallways modular. So we built a bunch of sections of hallways that looked a certain way and had the same design aesthetic, but they could be used like building blocks. So if you wanted curves or straights or tees. We'd made certain pieces that could fit together and go in any orientation we wanted. So if we needed the guys to go down 30 feet of straight hallway and hang a right, then we would use certain pieces to do that. So that's kind of how we were able to.
It's kind of like if you've ever worked in Halo Forge and they just have, basic pieces and they can use those, 5 or 6 basic configurations, like a T intersection or a curve or something,
Yes.
and you can build basically whatever you want from that.
Correct.
It
And
could,
we
it
integrated
could be
all the
confusing,
lighting.
though.
So.
You guys moved the pieces around when we weren't paying attention and walk down the hallway and you think you're headed towards catering and you end up in the ladies' room. I'm not saying that happened to me.
Well, the other thing, too, is when you're shooting on a set, you walk into this fully built set, and it looks amazing, and then you come back a little later, and they've taken one half of it off so that the camera crew can set up on that side of the room and shoot through the set, essentially. So you'd be on a set for half the day, and you'd think it was one thing, and then when we moved to a different setup, Philip, you guys would just close everything in, and then I'd realize, this is a complete set all around us. It's not just this one view, and what the other half of the room is different than what I expected.
It was a logistical, not a logistical nightmare, but it was a puzzle, and me and Marcus actually with grid paper made puzzle pieces with the correct dimensions so that I could plan out how far we could fit the hallways, because we could only go in certain directions, and just like what the configurations for each day would be, because you have to tell that to your team so that they can then move it or trick Matt and go to the restroom and into the ladies' room. So that was all an effort by the whole team. To
Sure.
make that
Yeah,
work.
there was a lot of lunchtime. I knew I had to find you at lunch so that I could determine what tomorrow's configuration of hallways would be, and we could pass that along to the construction guys and take all that into consideration. But yeah, it was a lot of, I wouldn't say we were on 24-hour shifts, but we had a lot of people working night shifts periodically just to keep up with the schedule. So whatever we were shooting during the day, once it was completed and it was finished out and we had to change things around, we would spend all night, making it correct for the next morning. So
It was also one of the most compressed shooting schedules we've ever had.
Yes.
We shot it really fast, and I think credit to Phil for getting it done and getting us through all the shots that we needed to get, because we were racing a deadline of Michael and Gavin were going off to do the Let's Play Live tour. And really, like, the day that they finished shooting Laser Team, they were on tour, like, the very next day.
Yep.
So they worked pretty much non-stop at a frenetic pace for, like, a solid month between those two things.
They were super happy about it. They didn't complain every single minute of the day at all.
Phil, did you have any thoughts on how did you approach the lighting, or what kind of things do we do with the modular hallways that was different than you've done before or challenging?
Yeah, the modular hallways were kind of incredible, but I was gone in Hawaii for a few months, so I actually
Brag
couldn't,
about it.
Well, I couldn't be there in time to really prep correctly with them, so it made it a lot more difficult. But when I was seeing, Daniel was sending me texts of the set, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is for real, the circular hallway. It was incredible when I saw the beginning, and so I was like, oh my gosh, we have to add, LED lighting ribbon to this whole set. And basically it came down to make this integrated lighting with the spaceship, it would cost a lot of money to get thousands of feet of LED, and we had to do it. And because of that, it kind of integrated into this beautiful set design and really made it kind of like this power that was built within. And so we didn't have to do as much lighting when we were actually shooting, but it really allowed to be a lot more beautiful, because once we were able to cut these slivers and let light just spill through in the right places, and at the bottom and allow us to change the color, because these are RGBW, so we can change any color we want. So we had to use several sets to look like different locations. So we were at the flick of a button able to change. So the technology really allowed us to do a lot very quickly with a very, very limited time to accomplish.
And also, we had the advantage of, I should say the disadvantage of normal lighting is all the C-stands and all the sandbags and all the traditional grip and electric equipment that's there. But the beauty of the integrated lighting was we didn't really have to deal with any of that. It's already part of the set. You just have to put the pieces together and turn it all on and dim it, for camera. So it's part of getting those pieces to work correctly was about having the lighting not have to be taken off and reapplied for each scene and each set.
besides production design and stuff, do you think that when we were on sets and designing what we would do, was there a different approach than the first film, or like did we pivot to?
Well, this movie was kind of planned out, and the first movie we just winged it. So, it was a very different movie. I mean, I think Lazer Team 2 is very different in a bunch of respects. The first movie we like really wanted to make an adventure movie, and it's kind of like hearkening back. I felt like to like old school like Amblin Entertainment kind of stuff, which is the kind of stuff that Burnie and I grew up on, and wanted to bring some of those like late 70s, early 80s tropes and ideals into a new form. Mm-hmm. And this movie, I feel like, is much more of a true sci-fi comedy, where we're kind of leaning more into kind of like the red versus blue style of comedy than we have in the past. And so I'm excited for that, because it feels like very much in keeping with the first movie, but a completely different style of movie. And I think a lot of that came out of how we shot it, where the first movie we had a lot of locations and we were running around all over the place, so there wasn't as much time just to get a lot of crazy banter and back and forth, whereas I think on this movie we had a little more time, even though it was a faster shoot, to allow Burnie and Colton and all the rest of the gang to play around and try out different ideas.
Well, I think there was a couple different things that added to that as well. It was a shorter shoot, and so we were able to keep the energy up longer as well, but the days themselves were so much easier because we
weren't freezing our asses off?
Yeah, the first Lazer Team, we weren't freezing our asses off in the middle of the night. You know, we would show up to work at 9 a.m. and we would shoot all day, and sometimes all day meant until 11 p.m. at night. And so that was really different than the first Lazer Team, because we shot a lot outdoors and we shot a lot at night, which meant we couldn't start our workday sometimes until 8:30 p.m. And we would shoot till 5 or 6 in the morning. Which, you know, it's adjusting to that is tough, and not every day was like that on Lazer Team, so you had to go back and forth between a night schedule and day schedule, and it was harder. And then we had the added bonus of Lazer Team 2. It was the cast had all worked together before, you know, right. Colton and Gavin and Michael and me. And so we immediately fell back into the fun banter. We were able to work things out on set, you know, with the script and everything, you know, the things we wanted to add and punch up. And, you know, Nicole, who you saw in the trailer, you know, was obviously a big addition. And at first I think she was like, what have I gotten myself involved with? Because that whole thing with Michael going when she's talking that's not the script. That's just Michael interrupting her in the middle of her shot. And, you know, and Michael's had a lot of practice. That nerdy scientist voice is just very close to his all-internet voice that he uses. Yeah. And so it was great, but it was, instead of putting Nicole off, she like jumped into that. And
yeah.
You know, she started going back and forth with us as well.
And I think it was great having her, because she and Colton, you know, work on Superstore together. And so they have, they have a great rapport together, and it really shows, I think, in some of the scenes. There was a couple scenes where it's just the two of them, and we were dying laughing. There was one scene we filmed that's in a trailer, and it was such a small little place to shoot. It was kind of like we were all in this little tight space together, and you couldn't move, and if you even breathed, the mics would pick it up because we were all so close together. And we would have to leave the trailer because we were all busting up laughing of the two of them riffing off stuff. And they would always throw in a bunch of like Superstore quotes that I didn't get, you know? Like I watched the show, but I don't get all the little references. And I would go, that's good, but cut the thing about wolves. Does anybody know that reference? And then they would, and then they would be like, well, that's a Superstore joke, Matt. We don't really want to cut it. So
we'd walk up and try another one. Actually, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to show something else?
Yeah. So we have a scene from kind of the beginning of the movie where Nicole. There's more, Burnie, don't worry.
Every time you talk, I get nervous because I know it's like I got to say this about that trailer that we just watched. Uh-oh. It's a very good thing. Is that I didn't see any of my favorite scenes in that, and there's certain scenes we all really loved, and there's ones that I'm like, when we were on set, it's like, I can't wait to see this. And I like the fact that they're not in the trailer, because still they're saved for the movie.
Yeah, well, and with the trailers, we're going to try to, dole out information and moments as we can.
And then there's some scenes I hope never make the light of day that never get seen.
Well, we have a big challenge with talking about Lazer Team 2 the same way we have about Day 5 Season 2, where there are so many twists and reveals and new things that are going to be happening. I can tell you, we meet new alien species, and there's a bunch of other, and that's the kind of the tip of the iceberg of new crazy things that happen in the movie, and we're really trying not to spoil anything for you guys. So kind of everything that we've been showing so far is from the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, marketing is an interesting thing for movies because, for Lazer Team 2, and I'm sure, once we get closer, there'll be some more traditional marketing stuff. But it's a sequel to, a low-budget sci-fi film. So we really I feel like, at least, the people that are going to watch Lazer Team 2, those are the people that watch Lazer Team and really liked it. Or down the road, people who introduce Lazer Team 2 to their friends. So for the marketing, it's easier for us not to give away as much stuff because we can just show the premise and then draw people in with some of the cool shots and things like that. Yeah. Hopefully, yeah.
Well, this is a scene where Nicole has gathered the group back together. They haven't seen each other in quite some time, and she's trying to convince them to come help her go find Woody.
No, super.
Nicole's character name is Maggie.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to cut the stream for another few minutes, but come back after. Okay, here we go.
So I was going to say, you should point out, what stage are we watching this of completion to for, visual effects, sound effects, all that?
Visual effects aren't final. There's just some rough stuff in there.
Yeah. We had a reaction to something that happens to Woody, but that's not complete in there, right?
It's not complete because the visual effects were incomplete. So there will be some things added in, but we just wanted to show the bulk of it.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So work in progress.
Work in progress.
Yeah.
Yes. Was there enough Burnie in there for you, Burnie?
Solid amount of Burnie. It's A+. 85% Rotten Tomatoes.
There's a lot of Burnie in the movie. Don't worry.
What's that?
There's a lot of Burnie in the movie.
A little too much in some points. Yeah. Well, yeah. You're wooing now. Just wait.
I know what Burnie's talking about, and I just can't wait.
It's great when there's scenes in a movie when they're coming, the day comes, you shoot the scene, and then you step off the set, and the director goes, "That was amazing. I never thought you were going to do that." It's I didn't know I had an option to get out of that. I would have gotten out of that scene if I could have.
I will say, to Burnie's credit, Burnie was always the person, I felt like you were kind of a morale officer from the cast, with the long days, you would always kind of pitch in to just make sure everybody was still having high energy. You'd be very good at just sometimes I would secretly wait to shoot you till the end because I was like, Burnie's not going to be tired. He's going to be good. He's good through the end. So a lot of credit.
Lesson learned, be an asshole and go home early. I like it. No, it was great. Like I said, having the cast back together, and we got a ton of the crew back as well. Getting to work with Philip again and a lot of the crew and Marcus being on set a lot of the time. It definitely felt like a very fun reunion, and we had a lot of fun making this movie. I think the first time especially, honestly, Colton's professional, does his stuff all the time, but for the first movie, for Michael and Gavin and I, we knew it was a big stretch. We knew we were doing something bigger than we had done before, so, we were working out the nerves of dealing with that. But this time, we felt very comfortable coming back in, and morale was easy to keep up.
Yeah. Cool.
I always find that the stressful sort of overnight shoots and that stuff, it creates pretty good, pretty heavy bonds. So, when you're having to deal with hard situations in the middle of the night, it's cold, no one's having fun anymore, and we're all there still, being friends with each other. So yeah, there's some camaraderie that comes along with a hard film shoot.
Yeah, and it's we get to do fun stuff too. We've shown some of the different things, the new suit we've shown on the poster. People were commenting on Reddit, I saw.
It's interesting that you bring up the new suit.
Right.
Because we have a scene that presents
I'll
that.
wait to bring it up later. That's
I can
an
show it
advanced
now.
segue.
Why don't we show one more clip and then we can go to questions after that?
Yeah. And you can tell your story while people...
You guys want to see one more?
Okay, got it.
Yeah, we got to cut the stream one more time.
Got the stream one more time.
Wait 1 minute. Okay, here we go.
And I gotta say too, you talk about like this being able to have fun and ad lib with it. The jetpack just was on the set.
Where did that come from? I still don't know where it came from.
So we were like, all right, let's get this jetpack.
Just we had it laying around. What's the problem?
It's just, we go to do that scene, we've got it planned out, and then someone finds a jetpack and is like,
It happened exactly like that, where we were supposed to be shooting, and we turned around and Michael was wearing a jetpack.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, what are you doing? It's like, this jetpack's awesome. This is in the movie now,
Why
right?
wouldn't I put it on?
And we argued with him about, no, there's no jetpack in the movie. He's like, but I'm wearing a jetpack. It's in the movie.
I mean,
it's
what else would
happening.
you find in a government military lab? You know, you had to have a jetpack.
It's like me and Phil would have a shot list, and we'd go into the day, and then it'd be like, someone found a jetpack, Phil, and he's like, well, he throws the paper away. Like, okay.
Yeah. There's a person whose job it is on the set, the script supervisor, to make notes of everything that we're doing. We drove the script supervisor and the prop guys insane because we'd go back to shoot or do a different angle, and people would say, oh, remember in this shot, Michael has on a jetpack. And the script supervisor's like, jetpack? What you know? And even like picking that ball up that I did off of the shelf, getting rid of that ball later in the scene was this, we had to work out when I was going to lose the ball.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah. And Marcus, we had fun with that. It's like, that little moment is something I don't think most people would notice. But it just shows how much like extra time we had to on set to add more as we were doing things. Sure. Because Woody's working with a rift, through time and like some kind of portal that goes through something. I said time, they don't go through time. She has very explicitly said that.
She said that explicitly in the trailer.
I still don't get it.
It's not a DeLorean, okay?
But because of that rift, which is a portal from basically one place to another, he had tennis balls there on the set, and I thought it'd be funny if he threw them through through the rift. And then we realized there was a scene in Poltergeist.
Yeah, this is your Poltergeist reference, right? Yeah.
Right, where they were throwing tennis balls through and they had them numbered.
Carol Ann.
Yeah, so we pulled up Poltergeist on set and made sure we numbered the tennis balls exactly like they were in Poltergeist. Like somehow Woody got one of these tennis balls from there. So it was just fun to do even little things like that no one's going to notice. But we had a lot of fun doing it on set.
Yeah.
You guys can add that
right.
to the
Everyone loves
IMDb
the
trivia
Easter egg.
page now. Well, cool. Should we get some Q&A going?
Yeah. What were you going to say about the
Mike's?
suits while they line up, Bernie?
Can we cut the stream? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what I was going to say. We're just talking about I was talking about us being back and like being able to play around those moments of like, we were all dying to see the new suit, and when they showed us the design for the suit, which changed a couple different times.
Yeah.
We were excited to get our hands on those and see what they were going to be like, and being on set was also very helpful for having to wear those suits because they offer almost like no environmental protection at all. They don't keep out the cold.
Soak up the heat.
Yeah, exactly. So if you get in the heat, man, they get hot fast.
Because we're good sports.
Where do we want to start? Let's start over here.
Right here.
Hi, I love you guys. I have a question for Daniel. Is
Yes.
this your first film, like full-length film that you've worked on? And if so, what's it been like, working with Matt and everything?
Oh, Matt.
It's been a dream.
This is my first feature, yes. And I've worked on sets of other feature films before, but this is my first time directing.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think we kind of mentioned this at the immersion panel, but I kind of attribute part of me getting the job to, I think, having a successful season 4 of immersion and kind of using that as a stepping stone to kind of show off a little bit, working with Marcus and Phil. And so I had relationships with everybody up here, including and also Michael and Gavin. And then I think me and Matt work pretty well together. But it's really fun to be able to work and learn from Matt, who, he did the first one. He had all these relationships with people, but also be able to like have fun and joke around with him, argue with him, and like just go through that process, which we've been doing for almost 4 years now.
Yeah, and I would add to that, I think Daniel is probably the most prepared director on set of anybody at Rooster Teeth. Like, he really thinks ahead about everything that needs to happen during the shoot and plans stuff out that I then force them to throw away later. No, just kidding. That the jetpack forces them to throw away. But no, he really plans really hard, and we could never have made this movie if he didn't spend so much time with Phil and Marcus and the rest of the team getting it into a state to shoot. Because really the pre-production process is where it really almost more of the movie gets made in that phase than it does shooting. Like, Hitchcock used to say he didn't even feel like he needed to show up to see his movies getting shot because he knew what they were going to look like if they were well planned. And Daniel did a really great job planning this movie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello? Before I get to my question, my little buddy Mimi Q wants to tell Burnie something.
What's that? What?
He said, while he does congratulate you and Ashley for making the top 4 in your season of the Amazing Race, he's a little bit sore about you getting eliminated last. Well, that would be the PG-rated version of what he said.
Okay. Thanks,
Anyway, my question to you is, what problems from the first movie, however minor they may have been, are you trying to avoid while making this sequel?
Well, Matt was talking about Daniel being a prepared director. I think, remember, what we talked about most from the first Lazer team was how Matt just kind of kept everything going during the first movie. How, the way we approached the production with the location shoots and everything just became, so complicated so quickly. And there were some frustrating, very cold nights. But Matt was like, stuff happens on set all the time. Like, something breaks, something's not ready. On the first Lazer team, we had this incredible room at the university, which were all these monitors. And I remember it was like one of the most expensive things that we did was renting that room.
Yeah.
And we shot there for an hour and a half, and then the monitors all just stopped working. I mean, it was like these amazing displays, and they just turned off, and the crew of that place just couldn't get them back up for like 4 hours. We're all just sitting there. But Matt just like stayed with it, was working the problem and getting us through it. So it's, the pre-production that Daniel and Matt did on this one kept us from having any of those issues whatsoever this time. So,
thank you. Thank you.
It's a good question.
My question comes for the two writers here. How do you develop the comedy in both your Lazer team screenplays, and what's Nicole's ethnicities? Not to be personal.
I never asked her. I'm not really sure, but as far as the comedy goes, I think we had a really interesting opportunity coming into the sequel for Lazer Team, because Lazer Team being a sci-fi comedy franchise, we did have the obligation in the first one to spend a lot of time on the pages explaining the characters and setting up the world and, things like the universe with the Antarians and everything else in it. We didn't really have those obligations in Lazer Team 2, which was really freeing. If you come into Lazer Team 2, we can hit the ground running, assuming you know who these characters are and what their relationships are to each other. So we can just go straight into those relationships and, explore the comedy in them, which is great. We have a lot more time on screen for Lazer Team 2 devoted strictly to comedy.
So you're saying that in order to bring the comedy, you have to go directly into the relationships between the characters?
Yeah, you have to make a first movie, and then on the second one, you can be funnier. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I wonder if there's comedy between you, Burnie, and Matt Hall1.
No, we've used all that.
No, none today. We're out. Sorry.
And I think it would have been better. I mean, I wish at the climax of Lazer Team 2, Nicole would wear the helmet just in case if the wielder, gets killed off or retires or something.
Well,
kind of brings the cultural identity of Asians like myself.
Well, the helmet's off, so anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Yeah. Over
Well,
here.
that's great.
By the way, if you ask a question, you can come up, and if you didn't have a poster, there's a poster up here that you can grab, or a Lazer Team 1 DVD, or a crew shirt if it fits you.
No
which
kidding.
These are
How
highly
many have
coveted.
those?
A handful.
Okay.
Did you not get one?
What is this, a napkin size one? What is this?
It's the onesie.
Oh, yeah, it says Gavin size.
We don't have
Okay,
the hot
that's-
dog cannon. I'm sorry.
That's a small? Holy cow. Yeah, but I don't throw stuff into crowds. I don't know if you know that about me or not. If I...
Cool. Oh, here you go.
Are you willing to diet to wear the shirt? You could just lose some weight. Let's go over here.
Yeah. Next question.
So after Lazer Team 1, you got a lot of feedback from critics, people who watched it, just a lot of feedback, I'd assume. And how did you respond to it in making Lazer Team 2 and creating a style that would make people enjoy the movie in a way that they gave in feedback?
I think the main thing is what I said earlier is like that I think a lot of people were expecting the first movie to just be like a straight up comedy movie. And what we wanted to make and what we, I think, did make was more of an adventure movie. And, but we did want to pivot with the second one and make more of a straight ahead comedy. So that's more in line with what you're going to see in the second movie. It's like Burnie said, we had a lot more time to bring out the comedy between the different characters, and they had a lot more experience riffing with one another. So we really leaned into that.
Another thing we did based off a character that Burnie created was just the character of Maggie, and just making sure, or not making sure, but I wanted to put a woman at the forefront and to see what kind of dynamic that would create with these four guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was that's really interesting. I think it changes the tone of the movie.
That was particularly interesting feedback for us in Lazer Team 1 when we did get some negative feedback, some criticism over the lack of a strong female lead like among Lazer Team themselves, which is as the company that's made characters like Carolina and Tex and the entire Ruby series, that was an interesting bit of feedback for us to get, and so that was, I'd say, something we certainly reacted to. And like Matt said, making a pure comedy with sci-fi elements, that was important to us as well.
All right, this is my first time at RTX. Anyways,
Welcome.
My question is, are the chutes still non-anti-flammable?
Yeah.
That might be a spoiler.
Yeah, it might be a spoiler.
We had some hard days on set.
Yeah.
You might find out why.
All right, okay.
Good question.
We know that they will get through a metal detector. We know that.
Next question.
All right, little nervous. Literally talking to one of my childhood heroes.
Thank you.
So,
That was a solid joke.
Burnie, Matt, so when you set out to make Lazer Team in the sequel, was there ever a moment of clarity where you took a step back and realized just how far you've taken the company from making videos yelling at each other in Halo to all of this?
He said one of his childhood heroes, Matt, and then addressed both of us. I don't even want to know which one he likes. I don't want to find out.
Burnie.
Yeah?
Shots fired.
Well, it was nice having you here. Guardians will escort you out.
Just to be clear, Matt has the power to cancel this event, so let's not do that anymore. So how far, Matt and I, I mean, this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to get back to making feature-length content and, movies. That's where Matt and I started. And, especially even like live action. Matt, you have a long history in your career of working in animation, but, I mean, Red vs. Blue was really the only animated thing I had ever worked on, And so that show being our first hit right out of the gate, we got identified as a web company, making shorts, and also being an animation company as well, because, that was our most well-known show. But it was a long process of us getting back to making longer form content and making live action content as well.
I agree. If you could make sure he gets a really good spot for the metal detectors. Next question.
All right, Lazer team versus any other sci-fi team. What's the dream crossover?
Well, I'd say Firefly, but we'd like to make a third one. So. Too soon? Really? Too soon? It's been 14 years.
You don't want to like fight the Ninja Turtles or something? 4v4?
That could also be a spoiler. Any sci-fi team?
Any.
Versus?
Versus. They could be friends in the end.
Yeah, people are saying like Spaceballs and stuff. I wouldn't want to be something where we don't die in the first 5 seconds, so not like the X-Men or anything like that.
I guess Predators is out, huh?
I really can't think of anything. Yeah. Power Rangers, maybe. Yeah.
The Planeteers. No, they're going to take on the Planeteers.
Yeah, Captain Planet and the Planeteers. There you go. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. Oh, that's okay. My question is, how is Gavin still alive? Because he can't eat or drink anything.
Oh, you mean Gavin? How is Woody still alive?
Oh, Woody.
Woody.
No.
Yeah.
Woody.
Yeah.
Gavin, we don't know the answer to
We don't
Gavin.
know. Yeah, how Gavin's still alive. I don't know. Do you want to address that a little bit with Woody? I feel like we cover some of that,
Yeah.
I don't know how much what made the final edit, or is in the process of making the final edit.
The helmet has powers that are beyond our comprehension as far as nutrition is concerned.
I did. When we were brainstorming stuff, I asked the very same question. I won't say
There's some questions I like that people ask, like that one, and how do they get the suits on and off and other clothes around their armor?
Yeah.
That make no sense whatsoever if you really think about it, and are just kind of fun to ponder and come up with your own solutions for. I mean, he very, may have got a corn dog stuck in his vent.
And we addressed some of that too. I mean, there's some of that in there, yeah.
Yeah.
But Woody's a very smart guy.
Oh, Marcus is going to have a real answer now.
Well, no, I was just saying, like the David Lynch thing, they're there to bring up questions. That's all. That's it. There is no answer. They're there to let you question why and what it is.
I will say, though, that in early pre-production meetings when Gavin was around, we were talking about Woody's helmet and addressing some of this. Like, well, maybe you could do this, and Woody could, work with the helmet and achieve this or achieve that. He goes, could you ever make it to where the helmet shaves off his horrible mustache? And we're like, no, that's impossible. That's not... That defies the laws of physics. Get out of the room. So he stopped coming after that when he found out he was going to grow that horrible mustache again. Oh, you see? Oh, yeah. Meg wanted to kill me. Yeah. She does not like that thing.
You look great.
So what are some of the differences between going from making a crowd-funded movie to making a movie funded by you? And more importantly, how many gigawatts does it take to open a portal?
1.21.
It's a standard measurement.
It's not a DeLorean, Marcus.
Sorry.
That's an interesting question. I mean, the tonally, like just making the two movies was really different because, like Burnie said, making the second one was very much like a family reunion, where we had all worked together before, and making a movie is like, it's almost like going off to summer camp or something, where you have this like really intense experience with friends, and you make new friends, and at the end of it, you're like, man, that was like hard, and it took a long time, and but I don't want it to end, so it's always kind of like bittersweet, and coming back to it's like amazing because you just pick up right where you left off with all your buddies. So just having that experience, like coming back, that was really like most of like emotionally, I think what everybody was feeling with making the second movie was we were just also glad to be back together and having fun and putting on jetpacks and being stupid, you know. And the first movie was the first movie was a ton of pressure, you know. I mean, it really was, because you know, it was the first movie we'd ever made. Obviously, we didn't want to disappoint anybody, didn't want to disappoint the people who had funded it, and you know, a dream that we'd had for a long time. So with the second one, I just feel like we had a little bit of pressure taken off. It was a little more easygoing, and it was a really like fun time and a chance for us all to kind of get back to what excites us about filmmaking and making movies in the first place is all about.
Thank you.
Yeah, and crowdfunding, I gotta say, crowdfunding is a weird animal, because if you do it, it's almost like there's no upside to it if you do it a second time, because if you crowdfund something and you don't make the thing, then if you try to crowdfund something else, people say, well, why would we crowdfund your next thing? You didn't make the last thing. But also, if you make something that's successful, you know, Laser Team was a movie that went out, got in theaters, and then was distributed by YouTube Red. Then if we went to crowdfund the second one, we knew the conversation would be, well, why are you crowdfunding this one? Your last one was successful, and you should have enough money to make another one. So it was really tough for us to leave crowdfunding behind for the second one, because we had so many people who had such a good time in the whole crowdfunding experience of the first movie that we were kind of just cutting that off for everybody. And some of the coolest stories that have come out of Rooster Teeth were generated organically through the crowdfunding campaign of Laser Team, like the 535.
Anybody infamous 535 here in the room? All right, awesome.
How many of y'all follow Laserbeam, Lannon, the Let's Player from Australia? He just hit 1 million subs. He did one of the most interesting things that I've ever seen anyone do in their career. He contributed the crowdfunding campaign for Laser Team at the highest possible level, which was a big investment. That was the $10,000 level. But that enabled him to come to the set 3 times and to visit the office for about 5 or 6 days. So what he did was he came to the set, he watched everything we did, then he went to Achievement Hunter, watched what they did, went home, used all of that as a learning experience to then build his channel, and now has 1 million subs by the time we're making the second movie. It was genius the way he went about it. And it was really fun process to watch. And I'm really sorry that like we weren't able to do crowdfunding for the second movie for those things, but we try to still keep that crowdfunding thing around by doing like the $1 million butt card game and maybe some other things hopefully we'll be able to do in the future, because we just love it. It's a way to make cool stuff and make cool stuff happen in the community too. So
cool.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm wondering, who was the hardest person to work with when making Laser Team 2?
Daniel.
What happened? I missed the question.
Who was the hardest person to work with?
It was a joke.
Last question. What's the way to answer that question? There's no good way to answer that question, Burnie.
Yeah, you go. Good. Maybe I'll get to go home early next time.
No, I think the no one was really hard to work with. It was I think the hardest part was maybe getting to know some of the new crew and cast because I didn't know them. Like I didn't know Colton, so I had to meet with him and just kind of get up to speed. But we did, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got really lucky in terms of the new cast for the movie because Nicole, having worked with Colton, obviously made her feel part of the group right away, and made communication with everybody easier. And then Victoria Pratt, who's in the movie, plays a new character called Colonel Kilborn. She was great and just like got in sync with everybody like really fast.
Yep.
And also she has a lot of scenes with Kirk Johnson, Vanden Bloom for the first movie.
Is back.
He's back and better than ever. And so that really helped, and it was good. But I think generally on a movie set, the hardest part is when you just don't have a relationship going in with anybody, because you do work these long days, and sometimes decisions happen very quickly, and you almost need to have a shorthand with everybody to keep moving and not slow things down.
The better question to Burnie would be, who is your favorite director?
No comment. I have an answer, though, to who was the hardest to work with. There was these two guys who worked in the practical effects department, and I can't go very much into detail about what I had to do with those two guys, but I fucking hate them. So
They didn't mean to. They didn't mean to. I promise.
There was a guy. There was a practical effects guy on the first movie, Mike. Who we termed Mr. Kick It Up a Notch. Because I would always give them the job to just do something horrible to Burnie, like, right before a take, like blast him in the face with an air cannon or something.
Or soot, yeah.
And Burnie would see him coming out of the corner of his eye and be like, "Oh no, here we go." But what Mike did does not compare to the abuse that Burnie got on this movie.
There's some fun stuff in there. Well, when you're the shield guy, guess what? You get hit with a lot of stuff.
Next question.
All right. I think we have time for one more question.
Okay. All right. I am the very first fan to see Lazer Team 1, and I can absolutely prove that claim.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it premiered at Fantastic Fest. I couldn't get a badge.
That is correct.
Because I was in college. And so I decided to volunteer. One of the perks for volunteers was to see the press screenings. So the press screening for Lazer Team 1 was 9 a.m., morning of the premiere. So I watched it with the press.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, that would be the first screening.
Fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Kudos, man. It's great.
And a different cut of the film.
It was a lot funnier watching with other people, though. Yeah. So, and I have two questions real quick. First, after the panel, can I get you guys to autograph this and get a picture with you guys? And two, real question, did having YouTube Red help you guys take more technical or creative risks, or did it actually limit you because there were external influences, perhaps in the creative process?
I don't think it made a huge difference, really, in the first movie, because it was kind of really late in the process, and so far, so good, is what we're doing on the second movie. So we're obviously, in the early stages, but we've always enjoyed working with YouTube in general and YouTube Red, and
and
it's great.
After making the first movie too, I mean, Rooster Teeth's a different entity now.
Yep.
So maybe it wouldn't have been the case, but historically in Rooster Teeth, after we made the first movie, we probably would have not jumped straight back into another film right away. We would have just in the old days, we had to kind of circle around and do other things after we spent so long on this one thing. But YouTube Red, the relationship with them was, they immediately said they wanted the second one, so we got to work right away, which is great because we had all the energy and had the ideas for the things we wanted to do in the first one that we couldn't do. So then we were able to hit the ground running, as opposed to taking a year off and then coming back to revisit the material.
Which is a lot harder.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for coming out.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bernie, you want to sign this real quick?
Yeah, I do. It's probably not.
Yeah.
This person is lying!